Okay, welcome Anatomy and Physiology. We're going to be graphing our results from our enzymes and temperature lab. You can follow through with me and I'll try to go through this quickly, but ultimately you guys are coming under assignments and clicking on enzymes, activity, and temperature report. The Google YouTube video will be available after this, but obviously right now it is not posted. If you want to see information on the lab summary, you can click here. The summary is for those of you that were absent or just forgot what we were doing. I basically posted what we were doing and the procedure itself. But what you are doing for this entire lab is going on this Google report here, and you guys are pasting a table and a graph and responding to these following questions right there. So, how do we make the table and the graph? First thing you're going to need to do with the sheet I gave you is take that data and enter it on a spreadsheet. So you come up here to this, and then I'm going to have you guys come up here to new tab, and then you're going to enter sheets.google.com. Or you can just click on one of the links, I suppose. Go to blank, and I'm going to have you guys open a blank Google Sheet file. Now, if you look at your table, we have different sets of temperatures. I'm going to leave myself a little line here, but we have 8 degrees, we have 25, 35, 45, 55, and then you will all have to enter your data manually. I'm just going to copy and paste it because I've done this a few times. Now what we need to do is tidy this up just a little bit. So to do that, we want to identify this as our independent variable and all of this as our dependent variable, which means we need to separate this a little bit. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to call this temperature. We want our unit heading, but we also want a unit in degrees Celsius, and we want that in parentheses. I'm going to hit spacebar, parentheses, and I don't know if you can do this on a different computer, but you can do Alt 0176 on a PC. On a PC that'll work, but on a computer like yours, a Chromebook, it might not. But if you can possibly figure out a way to get that 0 degree symbol in there for Celsius, that would look awesome. Now I'm going to want to move this over just a tad bit so that it looks a little bit nice, but now I've got temperature in there. And up here we're going to have our of course, label these our trials. So I'm going to call this trial 1, trial 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? But I need to now find a way to title these. What do these numbers exactly mean here? We're going to have to go right-click, insert a row above it, and we're going to call this the time for the disks to float to the top. We'll call it time for disk to float. And our unit, of course, is going to be in seconds, so I'm going to put a parentheses down there like this. So we've got some of our headings there, but we still need a few other things. All experiments are going to need to have a mean, and they're going to have a standard deviation. We'll just call it the SD. We're going to probably want these columns all to have this heading over top of it, since it is measuring all of these. So highlight this here, and then we're going to go ahead and combine these real quick. We come up here to merge cells. It's going to merge them together, and then I'm going to come over here and center it so that heading sends over top like that. All right, now that we've got that done, we can go ahead and put our brackets. I'm not going to click this cell here, but I am going to click this one and highlight all of these. Then I'm going to come up here and put a box around them like this. Then I'm going to come up here for the time for disk to float and put a box around that as well. Oops, it didn't do that. Okay, now I have a box around this. I don't have a box in here because there is no heading up there. Next thing we want to do is, because these are headings, it's probably nice to add a little bit of color to this just so it stands out from the background. Let's go ahead and put a color. You can pick out your own color, just don't make it too obnoxious. Little shade of gray or something looks plenty nice. Go up there and add a little color like that. Looks plenty nice. Also, it's kind of nice to have these data points centered or off to one side. So however you want to do this is fine, but if you notice these are to the side and then down here these are to the right side, I'm just going to go ahead and center all the data down there. It looks nice when it's all centered like that. Now, the last thing we need to do is calculate the mean and standard deviation. To do this, you simply need to click in a box here, and then you need to tell it what equation you want to calculate. We're going to go ahead and do this. Click in the mean box and then type in equals, and then we're going to tell it to calculate average. Now if I click in average, it's given me some weird numbers. I'm just going to go ahead to the plain one here that says average. I'm not sure if that one's going to be the best option. Just click on average, And don't click on anything else. As soon as you click average, go trial 1, go all the way to trial 5. If you did that any differently, then you're going to have to go back and do it. Hit enter. I'll show you again on this one. Hit equals, average, and I'm just going to click on the blank average one here and then go and highlight this and hit enter. And you could do that for each one of these, or you could just copy it and paste the cells. That's a shortcut. Next thing we're going to want to do is calculate the standard deviation. To do that again, hit equals, and then you type in stdev, which it's already popped up. stdev, go ahead and copy 1 through 5. Make sure you do not accidentally copy the temperature and the mean, because that is not a part of our data. Hit enter when you're done with that, and it will calculate it. Now do that again for every single row that is present, and you can just hit copy and paste, and then you won't even have to do that for each one, I guess. Next thing we have to do is we have to have consistent decimal points. Notice this one here has no decimal points, and this one has 1, and then these have quite a few. That's not proper. Generally in science, we want to have 1 more degree of precision than the raw data. So what we're going to do is highlight these, and then you're going to come up here to numbers. You're going to move these decimal points. Now, notice if I move it this way, it adds a decimal point or it removes it. We're going to add just 1 more decimal point than our raw data. And there we go. Our numbers are now done, and we are pretty much good to go with this. So now we're going to go ahead and make a graph, and we should be good. To make a graph, you are going to need to come up here to Insert, Chart. And now we need to tell the computer what our data is going to look like. First of all, it's not going to be a column. It's going to be a line graph. And then the next thing we need to do is tell it the x-axis. Well, if you think about a graph, the x-axis is the temperature. That's the independent variable. And now we need to tell it what is the series. Come down here to add a series, and then we're going to need to tell it what our y-axis is. Now you might be tempted to think trial 1 through 5 is the y-axis, but it's actually the mean of trial 1 through 5. So click OK on that, and there's our graph. All we need to do at this point is tidy it up, but if this is what you got, you are good to go. First thing we need to do is tidy it up a little bit by, let's go ahead and click on these lines. Whoops. I don't know if I can get rid of these, to be honest. Let me see if I can get rid of the grid lines. Click on none, and then vertical grid lines. Whoops. Let's see here, horizontal. I'm not a big stickler on grid lines. Well, I guess that's not going to work. Forget I said that. On Excel, it's a lot easier to get rid of. Google Sheets is kind of a compromise. All right, what we want to do next is we want to make sure we can kind of format this. Notice our data point is skipping off below 10. We probably don't want it to then start at 10 here. Let's go ahead and double click on this down here, go to horizontal axis, and we'll tell it the minimum value. Let's have it start at 0, and let's have it go to a maximum of, if we're ending at 55, we'll probably go to a maximum of 60. Okay? However, if we look at it, it's separated by every 20. And we probably don't want it to skip that much. And so in order to fix this, we're actually going to have to go back to grid lines here. Click on horizontal, come back to grid line, and we're actually going to add some more grid lines in here. Let's tell it to go to 7 grid line spaces. And that will skip every 10, and it looks a lot nicer now. We're going to need to do this to the other side. And if you think about it, I like it starting at 0, but does it need to really go as high as that? Well, maybe, I guess it'd be fine. I think in this case, it might even be better if we just let it start at 25. So let's double click this side here. Vertical axis, let's go ahead and start at minimum of 25, maximum value of say 125 is fine, simply because we don't want to stop halfway in between there, okay? I think the spacing out is rather appropriate, so we're probably fine with that on our graph here. We can go ahead and be done with that there. The next thing we're going to want to do is add our axis titles to this. Make sure you're still selected on the graph and come over here to Customize, Chart and Axis Title. We're going to come on here to Horizontal Title, and we're going to give the horizontal axis a title, and it needs to be the same as up here. This is going to be temperature. And of course you want your units in degrees Celsius. Whoops. Sorry, I'm clicking on my computer, it's different than your computer. Degrees Celsius. Okay? Then when we're done, we're going to go add a vertical title. That needs to be the title that's up here on your table. Okay. Once you get done with that, take a look. Is it titled with a unit? It's evenly spaced apart. I'd say it looks pretty darn good. And with that said, we probably want to add one other feature on here. Let's go ahead and add a chart title as well. Let's add whatever title is most descriptive. I would say here the effect of enzyme reactions on temperature, so whatever you want to say. Enzyme reaction rates as a function of temperature. So, if you can figure out a way to kind of move this around or do as you wish, that's fine, but as long as it has a title, axes are titled, and then you've got the graph in there, I'd say it looks pretty good. I think there's a way you can come down here and change the font size too, if that's something that makes it a little bit easier to see. You can click on here and change the font size to something a little more appropriate. That's up to you. But now that we've got this done, let's go ahead and copy our graph in our table. To copy our table, just highlight it, and then you go and copy it. And now come to your lab report and get rid of this, and now come and paste it. Whoops. I have to practice a little more because I'm not into Google Sheets as much. You can paste it, and I guess whatever way it comes out. And then if we go to our graph, click off here, we'll do the same thing where we'll come up and copy it. And then we'll paste it into Google Sheets. I'm not sure what the linked and unlinked is. And there we go. Now, if you can possibly scale this down to where it'll fit on the same page, maybe if there's a way to, let me try this out real quick. Forgive me for being on this microphone with you at the moment. Let me see if I can do this a different way here. Get rid of the table. Whoops. Of course, you all have to be listening to me while I fumble a little bit here on Google Sheets. Let's paste it to spreadsheet linked. Oh, it still did the same thing. Well, either way, if you can do this, try to get this scaled to where we get both the graph and the table on one single page like this. That's ultimately what you want to do. And then when you're done with that, you must answer the following questions regarding enzyme and reaction rates. And up on your computer, it will say turn in. On mine, it doesn't say that. And that is pretty much it. Good luck to everybody. And if you don't finish, it'll be homework.